There was a small school in a busy town where children loved to play and learn. One sunny morning, a new girl named Clara joined Primary 2. She had a bright smile and shiny black hair. Everyone wanted to be her friend, but Clara felt shy. Grace, a cheerful girl in the class, decided to help Clara feel welcome. She introduced Clara to other classmates during lunch break. Clara liked Grace because she was kind and always laughing. Soon, Clara and Grace became close friends. They played together and shared their snacks every day. But deep inside, Clara wanted more attention. She wanted everyone in the class to like her the most. She thought, "What if I do something to make everyone talk about me?" Clara didn't know that this thought would bring trouble. One day, Clara sat under the big mango tree during break time, watching her classmates play. She saw Grace talking to David, a boy who was very smart in class. Clara suddenly had an idea. She decided to tell a small lie to make herself seem important. When Grace returned to sit with Clara, Clara said, "Grace, I heard David saying he doesn't like you. He said you talk too much." Grace looked surprised. "Really?" she asked, her voice soft. Clara nodded. "Yes, I just wanted you to know because we are friends." Grace felt sad, but she thanked Clara for telling her. Clara felt proud of herself. She thought, "Now Grace will trust me more than anyone else." But she didn't know that lies can grow and cause problems. The next day, Clara told another classmate, Ada, the same thing about Grace. "David said Grace is too noisy," Clara whispered. Ada's eyes widened. Soon the rumor spread like Harmattan fire. Children in the class began to avoid Grace. Grace didn't understand why her friends were acting strange. She felt lonely and unhappy. Clara, on the other hand, felt special because everyone came to her to hear more news. She enjoyed being the center of attention. But Clara didn't stop there. She started spreading more lies about other classmates. Each time, she felt clever and important. She didn't know that trouble was waiting for her around the corner. Grace couldn't hold back her tears anymore. During lunch break, she sat alone in the classroom, her head on her desk. When the teacher, Miss Rose, walked in and saw Grace crying, she asked gently, "What's wrong, Grace?" Grace wiped her eyes and said, "Everyone is avoiding me, Miss Rose. I don't know what I did wrong." Miss Rose looked concerned. She patted Grace's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, my dear. I will find out what is going on." Miss Rose decided to talk to the class during their next lesson. She wanted to know why Grace was being treated unfairly. Clara felt nervous when she heard this. She thought, "What if they find out I started the rumor?" But she kept quiet and acted innocent. During the next lesson, Miss Rose stood in front of the class and said, "I heard that some children are saying unkind things about others. This is not good behavior. Who started the rumor about Grace?" The class went silent. Clara's heart began to race. Ada raised her hand slowly and said, "Clara told me that David doesn't like Grace." Another classmate added, "Yes, Clara told me the same thing." Miss Rose looked at Clara and asked, "Clara, is this true?" Clara's face turned red. She looked down and said, "Yes, Miss Rose. I made it up. I just wanted everyone to notice me." Miss Rose sighed. "Clara, spreading lies is very wrong. It hurts people and breaks friendships. You need to apologize to Grace and the class." Clara felt ashamed. She turned to Grace and said, "I'm sorry, Grace. I shouldn't have lied about you." Grace nodded, but she still looked hurt. Clara knew she had a lot to do to fix her mistake. Clara spent the next few days trying to make things right. She apologized to each classmate she had lied to. Some forgave her quickly, but others took time. Grace was the hardest to convince. "I trusted you, Clara," Grace said one afternoon. "Why did you do it?" Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted to be liked by everyone. I didn't think it would hurt you so much." Grace thought for a while and said, "I will forgive you, but it will take time to trust you again." Clara nodded. She knew she had to work hard to earn Grace's trust back. From that day, Clara promised herself never to spread lies again. Miss Rose decided to teach the class a lesson about honesty. She told them a story about a boy who cried wolf and how lying can lead to losing trust. The class listened carefully, especially Clara. She realized how much damage her lies had caused. Over time, Clara started helping her classmates and being kind to everyone. She learned that being honest and caring was the best way to gain true friends. Slowly, her classmates began to see her differently. Grace and Clara started talking again, and their friendship grew stronger. Clara was happy she got a second chance to do the right thing. From then on, she became known as a helpful and honest girl, not someone who borrowed trouble. As weeks passed, Clara noticed that another girl in the class, Esther, seemed very shy. Esther often sat alone during lunch and rarely joined group activities. Clara remembered how Grace had helped her when she was new and decided to do the same for Esther. During break time, Clara approached Esther with a warm smile. "Would you like to play with us?" Clara asked. Esther's face lit up. "Yes, I would love to," she replied. Clara introduced Esther to her friends, and soon everyone was playing together. Clara felt proud of herself. She realized that helping others brought true happiness, much more than spreading rumors ever did. Grace watched Clara closely over the next few weeks. She saw how Clara was making an effort to be kind and helpful. One day, Grace said to Clara, "I see you're really trying to change. I think I can trust you again." Clara's eyes filled with happy tears. "Thank you, Grace. I will never let you down again." The two friends hugged, and their classmates cheered. It was a fresh start for Clara, and she was determined to be the best friend she could be. With Clara's change of heart, the entire class felt more united. Miss Rose was proud of her students. She told them, "When we work together and treat each other kindly, our class becomes a happy place for everyone." From that day, the children in Primary 2 became known as the happiest and most caring class in the school. And Clara, the girl who once borrowed trouble, became a shining example of how anyone can change for the better. Miss Rose announced an exciting class project one morning. Each group had to make a poster about honesty and kindness. Clara was paired with Grace, David, and Esther. At first, Clara felt nervous. She wondered if David and Grace still held any grudges against her. During their first meeting, David said, "Let's make a big, colorful poster that everyone will love." Grace added, "And we can write real-life examples of honesty and kindness." Clara smiled and said, "I can help draw and write the examples. I have a story I'd like to share." The group worked well together. Clara shared how she had learned from her mistakes, and the group added it to their poster. By the end of the week, their poster stood out with bright colors, drawings, and powerful stories. Miss Rose praised their teamwork, and Clara felt proud to be part of something good. To celebrate the completion of their project, Miss Rose took the class on a trip to the town park. The children were excited as they played games, ran around, and shared snacks. Clara noticed that Esther was sitting quietly under a tree, watching the others. Clara walked over to Esther and asked, "Why are you sitting here? Don't you want to play?" Esther hesitated and said, "I'm not very good at games." Clara smiled and replied, That's okay. We can play something simple. Let's go find Grace and the others." Clara encouraged Esther to join the group, and soon everyone was laughing and having fun. Clara realized that kindness wasn't just about big actions. It was also about noticing when someone needed a friend. One day, Miss Rose asked Clara to give a short speech during the school assembly about what she had learned from the Honesty Project. Clara felt nervous, but also excited. Standing on the stage, Clara said, "A few weeks ago, I made a big mistake. I spread lies to get attention, and I hurt my friends. But I learned that being honest and kind is the best way to make real friends. I want to thank my classmates for forgiving me and teaching me how to be better." The audience clapped loudly. Grace, Esther, and the rest of the class cheered for Clara. Miss Rose gave her a proud smile. Clara knew that her journey wasn't over, but she was happy with how far she had come. Inspired by their class project, Clara had an idea. She suggested starting a friendship club where classmates could talk about kindness and help each other. Grace loved the idea and helped Clara organize the first meeting. The club became a big hit. Every Friday, the children gathered to share stories, solve problems, and plan fun activities. Clara and Grace led the meetings, and even David and Esther took turns helping. Through the club, Clara made new friends and helped others feel included. She realized that true popularity came from lifting others up, not putting them down. As the school term ended, Clara felt grateful for everything she had learned. She had gone from being a girl who borrowed trouble to someone her classmates looked up to. Her friendship with Grace was stronger than ever, and the entire class felt more united. Miss Rose gave Clara a special note on the last day of school. It said, "Dear Clara, I am proud of your growth. Always remember that honesty and kindness are your greatest strengths." Clara kept the note in her bag, knowing she would treasure it forever. She smiled as she walked home, ready to face the future with courage and a kind heart. The new school term began with a surprise. Miss Rose announced a debate competition for Primary 2. Each class had to select 2 representatives. Grace and Clara were chosen to represent their class. Clara felt excited but nervous. She had never spoken in a debate before. The topic was, "Why honesty is the best policy." Clara and Grace spent their afternoons preparing. Grace focused on writing strong arguments, while Clara practiced speaking confidently. On the day of the competition, Clara's hands trembled as she stood in front of the crowd. But when she saw her classmates cheering for her, she took a deep breath and spoke from her heart. She shared her personal experience about how dishonesty caused trouble, but honesty brought peace. Their class won the debate, and Clara felt proud. She realized that her past mistakes had taught her valuable lessons she could now share with others. Midway through the term, Miss Rose announced she would be leaving for a new school. The class was sad, but she assured them that their new teacher, Mr. Samuel, was kind and fun. When Mr. Samuel arrived, he introduced himself with a big smile. He told funny stories and taught them new songs. Clara noticed that some of the younger students in other classes were shy around him. Clara decided to help them feel welcome by sharing stories about Mr. Samuel's kindness. Soon, the younger students felt comfortable, and Mr. Samuel appreciated Clara's effort. Clara learned that small acts of kindness could make a big difference, even for adults. One sunny Saturday, Grace invited Clara and their classmates to her birthday party. It was held at her house, which had a big garden filled with flowers. Everyone brought gifts, and Clara brought a handmade card with a heartfelt message. During the party, Clara helped Grace serve drinks and cake. When one of the younger children spilled juice, Clara quickly comforted them and helped clean up. Grace's mother noticed Clara's helpful nature and said, "You're a kind and thoughtful friend, Clara. Grace is lucky to have you." Clara felt happy and proud. She realized that being kind didn't just make others happy, it made her feel good too. One day, the class received a letter from Miss Rose. She wrote about her new school and how she missed them. She also mentioned that she had told her new students about Clara's story of growth and honesty. Clara felt emotional as she read the letter. She couldn't believe her story was inspiring others. She shared the letter with her classmates, and they all agreed to write back to Miss Rose. Together, they thanked her for teaching them important lessons and promised to always practice kindness and honesty. To celebrate the end of the term, Mr. Samuel organized a picnic for the class. Everyone brought food and games, and they spent the day laughing and playing together. Clara, Grace, and Esther organized a team game where everyone had to work together to win. As they played, Clara noticed how much happier everyone was compared to the beginning of the year. The class had grown closer, and Clara felt proud to be part of such a loving group. Sitting under the shade of a tree, Clara thought about her journey. She had made mistakes, but she had learned from them. She promised herself to always be kind, honest, and helpful. From that day, Clara knew that no matter what challenges came her way, she would face them with a good heart and a bright smile. One Monday morning, the students of Primary 2 received exciting news. Miss Rose was visiting the school. Everyone cheered loudly, and Clara felt butterflies in her stomach. She couldn't wait to show Miss Rose how much she had grown. When Miss Rose arrived, she was greeted with hugs and smiles. She spent time talking to each student and joined the Friendship Club meeting. Clara and Grace shared updates about the club, and Miss Rose was impressed. "Clara," Miss Rose said, "I'm proud of how much you've changed. You've become a leader who spreads kindness and honesty." Clara felt her eyes tear up as she thanked Miss Rose. That day, Clara realized how important it was to have someone believe in her. One afternoon, Grace noticed her favorite bracelet was missing. She looked everywhere, but couldn't find it. Clara and the other classmates decided to help her search. They checked under desks, in bags, and around the playground, but it was nowhere to be seen. Later that day, Esther found the bracelet under a bench. She brought it back to Grace, who hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Esther," Grace said. Clara smiled as she watched the scene. She realized that acts of kindness, big or small, could make someone's day brighter. The whole class clapped for Esther's honesty, and it strengthened their bond even more. One rainy day, David accidentally spilled water on Clara's homework. Clara felt upset because she had worked hard on it. "Why didn't you be more careful, David?" she said angrily. David apologized immediately. "I'm really sorry, Clara. It was an accident," he said, looking worried. Grace gently reminded Clara, "Remember how you asked for forgiveness when you made mistakes?" Clara paused and thought about her own journey. She took a deep breath and said, "It's okay, David. I forgive you." They smiled at each other, and Clara felt good for letting go of her anger. The school announced a talent show, and everyone was excited. Clara decided to perform a play about honesty and kindness with Grace, Esther, and David. They practiced every afternoon, creating a story about a girl who learns the value of truth after telling lies. When the day of the talent show arrived, their performance was a hit. The audience clapped loudly, and Mr. Samuel said, "You've taught us an important lesson in a fun way. Well done." Clara felt proud of her group and grateful for her classmates. She realized how far she had come since the days of her own troubles. Mr. Samuel introduced a new activity called the kindness chain. Each student had to do something kind for another and pass along a note describing the act. Clara started by helping Esther with her drawing, and Esther helped David with his homework. The chain grew longer each day, and soon everyone was involved. By the end of the week, the class had a long chain of kindness notes displayed on the wall. Clara felt proud to see how much her class had grown in kindness and teamwork. One evening, while Clara was doing her homework, an idea struck her. She wanted to organize a kindness day at school. On this day, everyone would focus on doing kind things for others. Excited, she shared her idea with Grace and Esther the next morning. "That's a wonderful idea," Grace said. "We can plan fun activities too." Esther suggested a kindness box where students could leave thank you notes for their friends. Clara loved the idea. They brought their plan to Mr. Samuel, who happily agreed to help. Clara felt proud that her classmates supported her idea, and she couldn't wait for Kindness Day. The week before Kindness Day, the class was buzzing with excitement. Clara and her friends made posters and decorated the kindness box. David volunteered to write announcements, while others helped set up a special corner for the event. Clara felt overwhelmed but happy as she saw everyone working together. "This is better than I imagined," she told Grace. "Everyone is so excited about spreading kindness." Grace smiled and said, "That's because you've shown them how powerful kindness can be." Clara realized that her past mistakes had shaped her into someone who could inspire others to do good. Finally, the big day arrived. Students came to school with wide smiles, ready to participate. The kindness box filled up quickly with thank you notes, and Clara helped read some aloud during assembly. One note said, "Thank you, Esther, for always sharing your colors with me." Another said, "Thank you, Clara, for helping me when I was new." After lunch, they played games like Pass the Compliment, where students said kind things to each other. The day ended with a speech from Mr. Samuel, who said, "Kindness Day reminds us how small acts can bring big smiles. Let's keep this spirit alive every day." Clara felt so proud. Kindness Day was a success, and she knew it would leave a lasting impact on the school. The next week, Clara noticed something different about her classmates. They were helping each other more often. David helped Esther carry her books, Grace shared her snacks with a younger student, and Clara saw even the shyest students joining group activities. Mr. Samuel encouraged everyone by giving stars to students who did acts of kindness. Clara earned a star for helping Ada with her reading. "It feels good to help others," Ada told Clara, smiling. Clara realized that the lessons from Kindness Day were spreading like sunshine, and she couldn't be happier. Clara's class decided to write a letter to the headmistress about Kindness Day. They thanked her for allowing the event and shared how it had changed their class. Clara and Grace were chosen to deliver the letter. The headmistress read the letter and said, "This is a wonderful initiative. I'm proud of Primary 2. You've shown that kindness is the heart of our school." She promised to make Kindness Day an annual event for the entire school. Clara and Grace returned to class, beaming with pride. They couldn't believe their small idea had grown into something so meaningful. One morning, during assembly, the headmistress introduced a visitor to the school. She was a journalist from a popular children's magazine. "I heard about your Kindness Day," the journalist said. "I want to write a story about how your class started this amazing idea." The students were thrilled, especially Clara. The journalist spent the day talking to the students, asking questions about their experiences. When it was Clara's turn, she shared how her mistakes had taught her the value of honesty and kindness. A week later, the article was published. and Clara's class became the talk of the town. Clara felt proud, but also humbled. She knew the credit belonged to everyone. A few days later, a new student joined Clara's class. Her name was Amaka, and she looked shy and nervous. Clara remembered how scared she had been on her first day of school. She decided to help Amaka feel welcome. At lunch, Clara invited Amaka to sit with her group. She introduced Amaka to Grace, Esther, and David, and they all made her feel included. By the end of the day, Amaka was laughing and playing with the others. Mr. Samuel noticed Clara's kindness and said, "Clara, you've truly become a role model for your classmates." Clara smiled, feeling grateful for how far she had come. One afternoon, dark clouds gathered and rain began to pour heavily. Many students didn't have umbrellas, and Clara noticed a younger boy shivering at the gate. She walked over and offered to share her umbrella. The boy smiled and said, "Thank you, Auntie Clara." The word auntie made Clara laugh, but she felt proud to be seen as someone others could rely on. The next day, the boy's mother visited the school to thank Clara. "You've taught my son an important lesson about helping others," she said. Clara felt happy knowing her small act had made a difference. Clara discovered a new hobby, writing. Inspired by the article about her class, she began writing short stories about kindness and honesty. She shared them with her friends during break time, and they loved her creative ideas. Grace suggested starting a class storybook where everyone could contribute a story or drawing. Clara loved the idea and volunteered to collect and organize the entries. The project brought the class even closer, and Clara felt proud to see her classmates' creativity shine. During art class, Mr. Samuel asked the students to make a group painting. Clara was excited to work with Grace, David, and Amaka. But as they started, Clara realized everyone had different ideas, and it was hard to agree on what to paint. At first, Clara felt frustrated, but then she remembered what Miss Rose had taught her about teamwork. She said, "Let's combine everyone's ideas. We can paint a big tree, and each branch can show something special." The group loved the idea, and they worked together to create a beautiful painting. Clara learned that patience and teamwork made problems easier to solve. One Friday morning, Mr. Samuel announced a competition. Each class had to create something unique to display at the school's upcoming open day. Clara's class decided to build a kindness tree. The idea was to create a large paper tree, and each leaf would carry a message or drawing about kindness. Clara volunteered to lead the project, and everyone contributed ideas. Esther suggested making the trunk sturdy with cardboard, while Grace brought colorful papers for the leaves. Amaka and David helped write messages on the leaves, and Clara guided the arrangement. When open day arrived, the kindness tree stood tall in the school hall. Parents and visitors admired it, reading the heartfelt messages. Clara's class won first place, and everyone cheered with joy. Clara realized how teamwork had made their project a success. One day, during break time, Clara noticed that David and Amaka were arguing. David had accidentally stepped on Amaka's book, leaving a dirty footprint. Amaka was upset and refused to talk to him. Clara stepped in and said, "David, I know it was an accident, but you should apologize sincerely." David hesitated, but then said, "I'm really sorry, Amaka. I didn't mean to ruin your book." Amaka nodded and said, "Okay, I forgive you." Clara smiled and added, "Now, let's clean the book together." They worked together to wipe the dirt, and soon they were laughing again. Clara felt happy to help her friends make peace. Mr. Samuel planned a visit to a nearby orphanage for the class. He explained that they would bring gifts and spend time with the children there. Clara and her classmates brought items like books, toys, and snacks. At the orphanage, Clara met a girl named Titi who loved drawing. Clara gave her some colored pencils and helped her draw flowers and animals. Titi smiled brightly and said, "Thank you, Sister Clara." By the end of the day, Clara felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that sharing her time and kindness was even more valuable than the gifts they brought. Mr. Samuel announced that the class would hold an election for a class helper to assist him with tasks. Clara thought about running, but felt nervous. Grace encouraged her, saying, "You've worked so hard to help everyone. You'd be perfect for the role." On election day, Clara stood in front of her classmates and said, "If I become class helper, I promise to make sure everyone feels included and supported." Her speech was short but heartfelt. When the votes were counted, Clara won. She felt proud and promised to carry out her duties with honesty and care. One quiet afternoon, Mr. Samuel called Clara to the front of the class. He held a small box wrapped in colorful paper. "Clara," he said, "this is for you. It's a token of appreciation for your hard work and kindness." Clara opened the box and found a shiny badge with the words, "Kindness Champion." The entire class clapped and cheered. Clara felt her heart swell with joy. As she pinned the badge to her uniform, Clara realized that kindness and honesty had truly changed her life. She smiled, knowing her journey was just beginning. One weekend, Clara's grandma came to visit. Grandma was full of wisdom and loved telling stories. That evening, as they sat together, Grandma said, "Clara, I've heard about all the wonderful things you've been doing. I'm so proud of you." Clara smiled and said, "Thank you, Grandma. I've learned a lot about being kind and honest." Grandma nodded and told Clara a story about her childhood. She shared how helping a neighbor during hard times had taught her the importance of being selfless. Clara listened carefully and realized that kindness had been part of her family for generations. One morning, Clara noticed that Grace wasn't in school. She found out from Esther that Grace was sick and resting at home. Clara decided to visit Grace after school with Esther and David. They brought her a handmade card and some fruit. Grace's face lit up when she saw her friends. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice soft. As they sat together, Clara helped Grace with the notes she had missed, while Esther and David shared stories to make her laugh. Grace felt much better by the time they left, and Clara realized how important it was to show up for friends in need. During lunch break, Clara found a wallet on the playground. It was small and colorful, and when she opened it, she saw a student ID inside. It belonged to a boy from Primary 4 named Tunde. Clara quickly went to the headmistress's office and handed over the wallet. Later, Tunde came to thank her. "You're so honest, Clara. I was worried I'd lost my lunch money," he said. Clara smiled and replied, "I know how it feels to lose something important. I'm glad I could help." That evening, Clara felt proud of herself for doing the right thing. Mr. Samuel gave the class a project about community helpers. Each group had to choose a profession to present. Clara's group chose doctors. They worked hard to research and prepare a skit showing how doctors save lives and care for people. On presentation day, Clara played the role of a patient, while David acted as the doctor. Their skit was entertaining and informative, and the whole class clapped loudly when they finished. Mr. Samuel praised their teamwork and effort. Clara realized that working together made learning more fun and meaningful. As class helper, Clara often assisted Mr. Samuel with tasks. One day, he asked her to organize a game for the younger students during break time. Clara felt nervous, but she quickly came up with an idea. She planned a simple game of follow the leader and explained the rules to the children. They followed her instructions and had so much fun that they begged to play again the next day. Mr. Samuel smiled and said, "You handled that so well, Clara." Great leaders know how to guide others with patience and kindness. Clara felt proud and more confident in her leadership skills. Sports day arrived, but rain threatened to spoil the event. Mr. Samuel suggested moving some activities indoors. Clara and her classmates worked quickly to set up games like relay races and puzzles in the school hall. Despite the rain, everyone had a wonderful time. Clara even won a medal for helping organize the event. As she looked around at her happy classmates, she realized that challenges could always be turned into opportunities with teamwork and a positive attitude. One morning, Mr. Samuel introduced a new project. "We're starting a school garden," he announced. Each class would plant and care for their own section. Clara's class was assigned tomatoes and peppers. Clara and her friends were excited. They dug the soil, planted seeds, and watered them daily. At first, it seemed like nothing was happening, but after a few weeks, tiny green sprouts appeared. Clara felt proud as the plants grew taller and stronger. "It's just like kindness," she told Grace. "It takes time, but it grows into something beautiful." Her words made Grace smile, and the whole class agreed to take extra care of their garden. One day, Clara overheard some older boys teasing a younger student. The boy looked scared and was about to cry. Clara remembered how hurtful words could be, so she decided to step in. "Hey, that's not nice," she said firmly. "How would you feel if someone treated you like that?" The boys paused, looking surprised. After a moment, they muttered an apology and walked away. Clara knelt beside the younger boy and said, "Don't worry, you're not alone." The boy smiled and thanked her. Later, Mr. Samuel praised Clara for standing up for what was right. She realized that courage was another form of kindness. During library time, Grace's favorite storybook went missing. She searched everywhere but couldn't find it. Clara offered to help, and they retraced Grace's steps. Finally, they found the book under a chair where it had slipped unnoticed. Grace laughed with relief and said, "Thank you, Clara. You're always there to help." Clara smiled, realizing that even small gestures like helping a friend could strengthen their bond. She promised herself to always be there for her friends. Clara's birthday was coming up, but she didn't expect much because her family preferred simple celebrations. However, her classmates had a surprise planned. On her birthday, Clara walked into class to find the room decorated with balloons and cards. Everyone sang happy birthday, and Grace brought a small cake. Clara felt tears of joy. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice full of emotion. She realized that her classmates had become like a second family, and their thoughtfulness made her birthday unforgettable. The headmistress announced a fun idea. Each class would take care of a pet for a month. Clara's class was given a rabbit named Snowy. Everyone was excited, but Mr. Samuel reminded them, taking care of Snowy is a big responsibility. Clara and Grace volunteered to make a feeding schedule, and David built a small house for Snowy. They took turns feeding, cleaning, and playing with him. Caring for Snowy taught Clara about responsibility and teamwork. She also learned how small acts like feeding Snowy on time made a big difference. Mr. Samuel encouraged Clara and her classmates to participate in a school debate competition. Clara was nervous at first, but Grace reminded her how well she spoke during the class election. The topic was, why honesty is the best policy, and Clara worked hard on her points. On the day of the debate, she stood confidently and shared her thoughts. Her speech was clear and heartfelt. and she even shared a personal story about her journey with honesty. The judges were impressed, and Clara's team won. She felt proud of herself and grateful to her friends for encouraging her to step out of her comfort zone. One afternoon, Clara noticed some students arguing over who would use the swings first. She approached them and suggested, "Why don't you take turns? Everyone will get a chance that way." The children agreed, and soon they were playing happily. Mr. Samuel, who had been watching, said, "You've become a true peacemaker, Clara. Well done." Clara realized that solving problems peacefully made the playground and life more enjoyable for everyone. One sunny morning, Mr. Samuel announced an exciting trip. "We're visiting the city museum next week," he said. The class cheered with excitement. Clara, Grace, and their friends couldn't wait to see the exhibits. On the day of the trip, the students marveled at the artifacts and paintings. Clara was especially fascinated by a section about famous leaders. She admired how they inspired others through their honesty and courage. At the end of the visit, Clara wrote in the museum's guest book, "I learned that even small acts of kindness can lead to big changes. Thank you for teaching us history." After their successful garden project, Mr. Samuel gave the class a new responsibility: helping to clean and organize the school library. Clara loved books, so she volunteered to lead the effort. The class worked together, arranging books, dusting shelves, and creating a cozy reading corner. Clara suggested adding a kindness shelf, where students could borrow books about helping others. The headmistress was so impressed with their work that she announced a special library hour for all classes. Clara felt proud knowing her efforts had made a difference for the whole school. One day, Mr. Samuel couldn't make it to school, and another teacher asked Clara to lead the class in completing their group work. At first, Clara felt nervous, but she reminded herself of all the times she had successfully guided her classmates. She calmly divided the class into groups and made sure everyone stayed focused. When Mr. Samuel returned the next day, he said, "Clara, you've done a fantastic job. Leadership suits you." Clara realized that being a leader wasn't about being perfect. It was about helping others do their best. The school announced a talent show, and Clara decided to participate with her friends. They planned a short play about honesty and kindness. Clara wrote the script. Grace helped with costumes, and David worked on props. On the day of the show, their play earned loud applause. The judges praised their message and teamwork. Clara felt happy seeing how their story had inspired the audience. Afterward, a younger student approached Clara and said, "Your play taught me to always tell the truth. Thank you." Clara felt proud knowing her message had touched someone's heart. One day, Clara's classmates surprised her with a special gift. They had collected small notes of appreciation and put them in a colorful box. As Clara read the notes, her eyes filled with tears. One said, "Thank you for always helping us." Another said, "You've made our class a better place." Clara hugged her friends and said, "This means so much to me. I'm grateful for all of you." She realized that her kindness and honesty had created lasting bonds with her classmates. The school decided to start a newspaper, and Clara's classmates suggested she join the team. Clara agreed and wrote her first article about the importance of kindness in schools. When the first issue was published, Clara's article was featured on the front page. Many students told her how much they enjoyed reading it. Clara felt proud and decided to keep using her words to inspire others. As the school year ended, Clara reflected on her journey. She thought about how she had once spread false rumors, but had grown into a kind, honest, and helpful leader. During the final assembly, Mr. Samuel called Clara to the stage and said, Clara, you've shown us that it's never too late to change. You've inspired everyone with your kindness and courage. Clara made a promise to herself. I will keep spreading kindness and honesty wherever I go. She smiled, knowing this was just the beginning of her story. We've come to the end of this story. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please like the video, share your thoughts or lessons from the tale in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories.